Good afternoon.
Yeah, Christian, can you hear?
Afternoon. Okay.
Okay.
So myself on mute so you guys don't hear my background sound.
Okay.
But I'll chime in if I have questions.
Yeah, and they don't want to hear what board members have to say anyway. So,
All right, thank you.
okay, so we will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We do have public comment. Jane? You? Oh, okay, we will have 2 public comments.
Okay, I didn't, yeah.
Okay. In my public comment today, I just wanted to perhaps ask if this committee, I know that this committee, when I originally started coming to these meetings in the spring of last year and then last fall, that there was talk about reviewing the evaluation process. And at one of the meetings, I want to say September or May, Dr. Gorman had said something about a survey. And I also know that Eric Harmson is doing some small focus groups, if that's correct. And I was just wondering where we were with that process, because I know it hasn't been discussed in a few months. Over the course of this year's evaluation process, I have heard some things from not only teachers but administrators. We're using a new platform this year called Standards for Success. And there has been issues with it being difficult to navigate. Teachers were not sure where to click on to put in their post-observation comments. We have some administrators that have failed to do post-observation meetings because originally on the Stages dashboard, it was obvious to see who had not had their meetings. And this platform has been, I think, difficult on both administrator and teacher end as far as navigation and visual, being able to see visually what has been done, not been done, and things like that. So that was something that I had heard. And I just wanted to bring that to the attention of this committee and also ask where we were in that process, because I'm hoping that it's not going to be tabled forever and that we would continue to examine that. I have been told by some elementary educators that Eric has been doing small focus groups with 4 teachers in a group. 2 of which are are new to the district or young teachers, which I wonder how that works, and that hasn't been a very transparent process. And so I guess I wanted to speak today on that issue to see where we were, if this committee was going to continue further at looking at the evaluation process. There seemed to be some more bumps in the road with the change of platform. And I also believe that my colleague is going to speak on the same issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we actually were going to have an update on that anyway, but go ahead. But I do want to hear from both of you, so we do want to hear from all of you. So,
Hi.
hi, how's it going?
Good. I'm Bonnie Ingebretson. I work at Union High School.
Would you mind bring us your,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
In the last 8 years, GRPS has used the Danielson rubric to evaluate and rate teachers. What has happened is that the use of the rubric, which is not fully understood by everyone, has been subjectively used by administrators. It is not a growth model that will help the teacher improve and reflect on their own teaching. It is more of a tool that makes a teacher feel as though the deck is stacked against them, because no one can be highly effective in every category. It discourages teachers from trying to reach higher to grow. I have always believed that no one changes for the better by being constantly criticized, and that is what this method of evaluation does. And evaluators are looking for what is going wrong and not what is going right in the classroom. This method of evaluation does not fit every teacher. I am working in a credit recovery lab. I don't prepare lessons and I don't teach, but I am still evaluated with the same tool as a traditional teacher. I can only be evaluated in 2 of the 4 domains because the other domains are not applicable to what I do. It is the same with almost every special education teacher in the district as well. How can you be evaluated with a tool in which the result is pretty much predetermined because highly effective is not available to you? It is like being asked to climb a ladder up to a roof and the top rungs are missing. You can't climb to the top to reach the destination because you don't have equal access to the tool as everyone else. The Danielson rubric is not an equal measurement for all people depending on your evaluator. It is very subjective because the evaluators are human and bring unintended bias to the process. If you are not able to show or provide evidence for every piece of the rubric during the observation, or a student decides not to be effective that day, it is more of an evaluation of the student and not of the teacher. Another question is whether it is fair to ask the staff at our two traditional high schools, which have the most at-risk students in the district, since every school from Central to City to Museum School to C.A. Frost can exit their students who do not follow directions to either Union or Ottawa, can be expected to make the test scores that will allow teachers to be effective. The staff must do more to be effective because if the test scores that year are not good, it can significantly lower evaluation scores and put staff at risk for being rated minimally effective. Usually that involves making sure you are effective by being highly effective in your Domain 4 categories of professional development, attendance, and professional responsibilities to ensure your scores stay in the effective range. A better model might be a model that is a growth model. While part of the model is observation, the result of observation can be that the staff member chooses a domain in which to make improvement or a project that is either a meaningful contribution to the school or helps the educator grow in their practice to mastery. Finally, the tripod survey should not be used at 5% of our evaluation because our students do not read the questions. They go through and just click all the way through them because it's online and it's just another thing for them to do that doesn't really affect them in any way, but it affects the teacher to 5%. So I don't know if there's a different way to get the information done without having them just kind of blow through it, and they choose the middle, and the middle doesn't help effectively evaluate the teacher. So.
Okay, thank you. We have been discussing when to best present this. So anyway, I don't know if you have an update, Jonathan, or you want Superintendent Gorman to?
So we do need to discuss that. The work is in progress, but
Yeah.
we need to wait. We're waiting on the final report. So I think we can connect after this and determine when, as soon as
Okay.
possible, we can get that
Yeah.
to.
So it is something that we have discussed as to when this would be presented. There were partial findings, and there was a question to myself, at least, whether or not we should present the partial findings, and I decided that it wasn't useful to present the partial findings because it could be, they're not complete, and so it could end up leaving voices out that we all would want to have included, and so we were just waiting for the final report. It is a very rigorous study that includes surveys, focus groups. It is being conducted by an outside organization. So, and that organization does these kinds of assessments across the country. So we would not only have an assessment of how people at Grand Rapids Public Schools feels about it, but how the feelings about our evaluation system compares to districts across the country. So I'm pretty excited to hear it because I want to see, because again, as we mentioned when we discussed it back, I guess things take a while at schools, but the spring or fall is that we're waiting. We did agree to do this work in the fall, but then, of course, they need to have a year where the evaluations are occurring to actually assess the evaluation. So anyway, it should happen soon, so I don't want to promise it'll be next meeting. I would like to make sure that, you know, both of you are here on the day that it is presented. So, so hopefully it'll be somehow communicated what the agenda is. So, and you guys can feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be sure to respond back and let you know when that will be agenda. And then I think that we'll have some room for conversation. At this point, I know that Reverend Matias, Kim, anybody on this board has heard discussions about evaluation system. And so this is going to be really nice that we have this. And as Superintendent Gorman was very open to making sure that we have a transparent process and an understanding of how people feel about this. And I know that this had never been done before in terms of an assessment from everybody that experiences, not just teachers, but also administrators who do this work. So we'll see what that says, and then we'll have room for discussion.
So we're looking at when could we expect that?
I'll have to verify that. I know it's in the works, but we'll have to connect back with everyone involved and verify.
So
what-
April, May, June,
I'll have to come back with a response to that.
July?
We presented a timeline to this board before. We gave a formal presentation as it relates to this. There were some items that have come up today that we need to research a little bit. As you know, there usually aren't responses to public comment, so therefore that's why I'm just kind of sitting back there and waiting. There was, this was shared today that some of the practices have changed from previous years. Well, we'll look into that. There was also some allegations that administrators weren't completing a portion of the evaluation. We will need to look into that. But we're more than receptive, Reverend Matias, to getting that report to you. If not the next meeting, we can get it the meeting after. But to Dr. Baker's point, we want to make sure that it's finished, because we weren't going to give you something that was partially completed.
Yeah, and I'm with that too. And again, I would typically have discussed public comment in our discussion, but I knew that I was wanting to bring it up today anyway, so that we were
Okay.
planning on presenting that soon sometime, so,
Absolutely. And we want full transparency.
yeah. So, all right,
Yep.
thanks.
So up next, we have one report to Academic Achievement Committee, and that is on school advisory boards, and a discussion on that presented by our own Ms. Jen Schottky. So,
Do we have any instructional council update?
oh, I apologize. Thank you. Apologize. Yes.
all right.
Jane Neiman, instructional council update.
I just want to clarify, too, I wasn't attacking administrators. I'm talking about the platform being used as being difficult. Not in any way criticizing our administrators for missing those appointments. It is something that has come into play because of the platform being used this year, which is new.
Okay, so hopefully, we'll get in detail on
Okay.
this later, so.
I'm sure if you're getting feedback from administrators,
Yeah.
it'll become clear. Okay, the instructional council met on February 5th. We heard a proposal for the integrated math sequence at Museum School. Museum School, currently, the students have been following the traditional track of algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and in the fall are going to start piloting the integrated math 1, 2, and 3 series. That was initially presented about a year ago at Instructional Council, and since then, they have piloted certain units in the current math where applicable, and have completed the curricula and are ready to pilot the full course. So the freshmen in the fall of 2020 will begin this sequence of integrated math, which covers math and some science Common Core state standards. It's very innovative. It applies math to real-world concepts. There's been good feedback from the current students that have been piloting some of the mini modules and units that are part of this curricula. And so there's a lot of excitement around this sequence. It does cover, and Amy Powney has done due diligence to make sure that all the state standards and all of all the courses meet the requirements to prepare students for the SAT exam, PSAT, and that those standards have been covered. So far, very positive feedback on the individual units that have been piloted, but we're looking forward to seeing the full pilot in the fall. Instructional Council also went back to look at the shared time courses that were proposed. In January, we had a visit from a teacher in Grappas Christian who had wrote 5 syllabi dealing with relational health, nutritional health, sewing. And we asked them to come back with some revisions, adding assessments, a list of assessments that went with the courses, and an estimated materials needs and costs. Those changes were made, and the syllabi was returned in a timely manner. However, we have not heard back from our executive director, Mr. Lewis, or facilities to see if in fact we have the facilities and the equipment to offer these courses. Also, the relational health would need to be approved by the sex ed board. So at this time, approval was withdrawn until investigation could be done further to see if we could actually offer these courses. As was briefly stated, if we cannot have a GRPS shared time teacher teach these courses unless they are offered in at least one building in GRPS. And right now, we're not sure that the facilities and the equipments are available, and/or we would have to find a source of funding for the materials needed for the nutritional health, the sewing kits, and the things that, and the sewing machines, and the things that were part of the materials and costs for the courses.
Okay.
Instructional council lastly looked at the course proposal instructions and the template that is currently being submitted for new course proposals. Mr. Lewis, at a meeting in January, stated that they would like to change the timeline because as students are enrolling in courses earlier, they would like to have the curriculum guide fully done by December 1st. However, the timeline for course proposals that is on the current district server does not reflect that as far as due dates. And so we are working right now to rewrite that language and come up with a flow chart to be more transparent about when new course proposals have to be submitted, that they need to be fully vetted by the end of September. They need to have a course code assigned and then reviewed, and then have that time in November to be able to be added to the curriculum guide and put into the scheduling platform for the students to be able to choose those courses for the following year. So that work is underway. We did change the template a little bit to also add a line for SDS to sign off on course codes being assigned. Currently, the curriculum director has to sign off on that. Help me here, the certification officer needs to make sure that we have someone that assigns the proper certification for the teacher to have in order to teach the course. And the IC also has a sign-off date, but we wanted to add, Catherine Pitch proposed that we add something also for SDS to make sure that course codes were properly assigned before the course was piloted or put into the curriculum guide. So that's where we're at now. We're working on rewriting the language, and hopefully we'll have that soon. And then our next meeting is March 19th. We'll be hearing a final presentation from Mr. Geerlings on the Spanish for Spanish speakers course at Union in the fall. He's finished the curricula, is going to present the final work. And I have sent out requests to multiple principals and schools to give us feedback and update about courses being currently piloted in the 2019 through 2020 school year. So I'm hoping to hear back. I know that Art is going to present in May. I'm waiting to hear back from people at Ottawa, C.F. Frost, possibly Innovation Central and Museum School. All had course proposals last year in IC. So we're hopefully going to see those updates soon and let you know how those are going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you. Now
Okay,
we have one report to the school board, and again, it's about the school advisory, School Academy Advisory Board's discussion on that. So we have our own Ms. Jen Schottky to present on that. So I'll go ahead and unmute your video here. You should be able to just talk.
So I just want to, before we introduce why we have a special guest here today. This is what we had to do if we want to actually get a chance to speak as a board member, is to invite them as a guest. So and then they have the floor. So anyway.
Be listened
But,
to. That's what we have to do.
yeah.
Be listened to.
So,
Yeah.
I have yet to be invited, but anyway. We have begun work on the academies, and actually the first two things that we talked about when this new kind of iteration of this committee was, the teacher evaluation and then what to do with the academy process. And we were able to redo the application process and Ms. Schottky, Vice President Schottky, came to me and was concerned. I have a child at Innovation Central High School, and I've also worked through my work at Ferris with Innovation Central and the creation of academies and just awareness of those academies because of my day job, and then also with the new academies at Ottawa Hills. A key part of those academies are the advisory councils that come with the academy. And Ms. Schottky discussed, ideas about how to do it. And from my understanding, not just from her, but also from others that her academy has done is really exemplary. And so I wanted to have her present on that and then discuss ways that we can increase discussion. So she is here, not as a board member today, but as a member of an Academy Advisory Council. So,
Perfect.
Advisory Council, Schottky, please.
Yes, yeah, great lead-in. Yeah, so hello, colleagues. It's good to see you. I was sharing with Dr. Corbin, the last time I sat here, I was interviewing to sit among you, so it's been a while, but
Yeah, well, we're
it's
still
great to be
keeping
back.
track.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So-
Good. Yeah, so today I'm in front of you, not as your colleague, but in my professional role. So I work as the Vice President of Operations at the Associated Builders and Contractors and have had the opportunity to serve on the Advisory Council for the Academy for Design and Construction at Innovation Central throughout my career at ABC over the last 6 years. And it's been a just incredibly meaningful part of my work. It's been really exciting and meaningful for me to be able to bring not only the work that I do personally at ABC, but our network of over 400 construction companies to the Academy so that they can interact with, inspire, influence, and ultimately, hopefully, train and hire the students to work in both the design and construction industries. So today, Dr. Baker has asked me to do a couple of things for you. So first, I want to talk to you about advisory council structure, and I'm going to lead in with what the Michigan Department of Education says are minimum requirements for career and tech ed advisory councils. So to be clear, we do not have full CTE programs in our career-focused academies. And so this is not a requirement that we follow. However, I do think it's a very strong baseline for how advisory councils
Just let that.
Yep, you're getting a call. Yep. Okay, very good. For how advisory councils could be structured. And so this also could be a potential response that the Board of Education has around, okay, what do we do with this information? Next, I'm going to talk to you about just my personal experience on the Advisory Council at the ADC, the Academy for Design and Construction, and what we've learned over time. We have tried things that have not worked. We have tried things that have worked, and so I'll share with you some of those lessons learned and what I consider to be best practices. I'll talk to you about what we do between those Advisory Council meetings, and then ultimately some of our goals moving into the future. All right, so let's quickly go through what the Michigan Department of Education says about CTE advisory committees. So I will read these for you. An advisory committee is defined as the following: business and industry processes, equipment, and replication of work environments, providing related work-based learning or WBL experiences for students. Oftentimes those are taking the student into the work environment, not necessarily replicating the work environment at the school. An advisory committee brings worker knowledge and the skills they need. So what are the current needs of that industry? Workforce needs for employers. So what's the talent outlook look like? Who are they looking for? Is it entry level, mid-level, degreed students, that sort of thing? Professional development opportunities, that's primarily for teachers that lead those programs. So how can we as committee members bring those opportunities to the educators that are working in the academy? Create a plan for safety training in the classroom and work-based learning settings. That is of particular importance to us in construction. And then input on the process to plan and implement CTE programs. This is what the MDE says about who should serve on an advisory committee. A program advisory committee includes representatives from the appropriate program-specific business, industry, and post-secondary representation. And then also they suggest a parent representative is also a member. That's interesting. I will tell you that we haven't yet done that at our advisory council, but now that I know that, I think that we're going to be working toward that on our advisory council.
He's just there to monitor my phone.
I am not sure that Ms. Grant is still on the line. It doesn't.
Okay, perhaps she got disconnected. All right, I'll pause for
maybe-
a moment.
I'm sorry I lost you guys.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I'm back.
Make sure this sound is off.
Perfect. Okay, we were talking about who the MDE recommends or requires is on a CTE advisory council. So business and industry and post-secondary, as well as a parent. They also state that administrators, counselors, students, academic teachers, or other school coordinators can be non-voting members of that advisory board, and that's certainly the case for us at the ADC. They suggest that representation on the committee should reflect persons of all genders, racial and ethnic minorities represented in the community in which the program serves. The minimum requirement is that advisory committee meets twice a year. As you'll hear in just a moment, we meet monthly, and that would be my recommendation. The program advisory committee chairperson must be from business and industry, so that means they would not be from either post-secondary or higher ed or from the school. And then they say the most common cycle is a 3-year term of service staggered, so that membership is being replaced on an annual basis. And here's what MDE says a CTE advisory board should do. So they should support curriculum and instruction. That means that they are identifying and expanding the use of new technologies in the industry. They are comparing and looking at course content to ensure it's meeting relevancy in the industry and also being updated to support new careers that may be emerging in that industry. They are analyzing course content and sequence, again, for relevance. They are looking at post-secondary and industry credentials to reflect the standards that students can obtain. I'll talk about how we do that specifically in the ADC in just a few minutes. And they're looking at curriculum as much as they can, cycling through. We look at it on an annual basis, but not on its full, the full curriculum. Rather, we take pieces of it to review on an annual basis. An advisory committee assists with program review. They assist with recruitment and job placement. So for us at the ADC, we are notifying of entry-level jobs for the students. They are supporting student leadership and technical student organizations. I'll talk about how we do that in just a minute. They provide staff development, identify resources, and of course, support legislation. Now for this, CTE is legislated a bit more heavy than our advisory councils or our career-focused academies are, but this is a place where CTE boards get involved. Okay, so let's bring it to what it is we do here at GRPS. And so, as I mentioned, I've been on the advisory council for the Academy for Design and Construction for about 6 years, and this is our structure. So we meet monthly. As I mentioned before, I think this really is a best practice. Twice annually does not allow you to really implement much work and or just create that connectivity between the school and industry. And so I prefer this structure. We really can move on some of the efforts that we want to do. We don't meet in the summer, but we have used July on occasion as a strategic planning month where we would meet off-site for a longer time to really plan for the upcoming year.
Just to
please.
clear, I think this is, you made this clear, I just want to make sure, this is what the Academy Design Construction Advisory is currently
Correct.
arranged as, not what you'd hope it to be arranged as.
That's right. This is what we are doing now. Yep. Let me take a step back just to tell you a bit of the structure of the ADC as well, to help you understand what the students are doing there. So when students select the ADC, when they enter Innovation Central High School, they determine whether they want to go in the design track or the construction track. They spend their 9th and 10th grade years with exposure to both of those industries. And then their junior year, they either go into that design track specifically or into that construction track specifically. So for our construction students, that means that they go to a habitat build. So over 2 years, they're going to have 2 home build experiences. Sometimes those are new construction. This year, it's a renovation project. Or they're in the design track, which puts them in the design lab with Mr. Reed, doing a variety of design projects. For us, design tends to be more around architecture than other elements of design, like graphic design, for example. All right, so our advisory council is comprised of industry professionals from construction and architecture firms. And it's a diversity of companies and career roles. What I mean by that is Rockford Construction is a general contractor in the industry. And from Rockford, we have one of their lead estimators. We also have a project manager who serves on the council. Another construction company is Fine Zylstra, so they're a trade contractor. They're an industrial electrical contractor, and the individual from that company is a master electrician. So we're getting a variety of career roles that help us understand what's necessary for our student to be successful in that particular path. We have higher ed, so Ferris serves on our advisory council. The individual there is in the construction management program that Ferris offers at night in Grand Rapids, and her involvement has been just wonderful. She really helps us understand what students are lacking when they enter the construction management program. And a very specific example would be, lately she said that students are struggling with spatial design. So how do you, on a 2D surface, 3D model? And so Mr. Reed perked up as soon as he learned that and immediately was able to backward map and help students begin to understand how that works so that when they enter a construction management program, should they choose that, they're now ready and that gap has been closed. So it's really been beneficial to have higher ed. Historically, we've had GRCC and the MTech on the council, but they are not currently present. Industry associations, couldn't leave them out. That's who I am at ABC. And so I really work as a connector, although I don't work directly for a construction company. I do have access to the 400 companies that belong to our association, and we stay on top of industry issues. Of course, teachers, and I can't say enough how instrumental great teachers are, especially in a specific career track. And so we really work hard as the advisory council to make sure that they are well informed and understand what it is we do every day. And so we have one lead teacher and then program-specific teachers. For us, that's Mr. Reed in the design program and Mr. Belden in the construction program. And then the school administrators, so Principal Frost and Assistant Principal Sanders. All right, so one of the things that we do is host an annual fundraising event that has evolved over time from a basketball tournament to now what we call Rewind to Recess. But ultimately, our goal is to raise money to give scholarships to students who are moving on to trade school, to an associate degree program or a bachelor degree program in our industries. Additionally, at ABC, at our annual economic forecast, we ask the teachers for a wish list, and then I send that out to all of the members who attend that event. It's in December, and so they bring supplies that we then donate to the school. And then additionally, throughout the year, the teachers will inform us about where they might have a gap, not enough hand tools or power tools or materials. Those happen regularly at those advisory council meetings, and then we can collectively supply those materials to the school to help overcome those barriers to instruction.
I do have a question.
Yeah, please.
So how do you help the teachers keep current in teaching methods in the field itself in relation to how they're going to teach the class or just things like that? How do you guys do that?
Yeah, so that's the curriculum walkthrough that we usually do. Mm-hmm. So a specific example would be this year we asked Mr. Jellins, the lead teacher, for his 9th grade annual curriculum that was in construction design, and we asked him to rate where do you feel strong and equipped to teach that material and where do you feel weak. And then we focused on the areas where he didn't feel weak, where he felt weak, estimating was one of those. And so then the estimator that was on the advisory council was able to work with him to help him better understand how estimating works and then Mr. Jellins was able to say, here's what a 9th grader can actually do related to estimating. So the two of them were able to partner together and work on developing that curriculum. I will say that we do not know teaching methods as the advisory council. We know the industry, and so that's where that partnership is so imperative, that we can bring industry knowledge and they can help us understand how teaching works. Industry knowledge and connections. So this is where field trips and speakers in the classroom, although we prefer calling that co-teaching rather than speaking. This is where, for ABC, we host monthly events, and so students from the ADC are always invited to attend our events free of cost. So they attend our annual economic forecast, they come to our leadership speaker series, they attend our annual Excellence in Construction Awards. So we take every opportunity we can to invite students to come to our events so they can see what it's like to work in construction and also network and engage with industry professionals. All of those who sit on the panel are willing to offer up a field trip at any time to a construction site or an office as well. And to go back to your question, Reverend Matthias, also about how do we help teachers. So teacher externships is another thing that we're looking at. So we've done this kind of on a light version right now. Mr. Reed is in our Understanding Construction Documents course. It's a course that ABC offers over 6 weeks, once a night, and it's a blueprint walkthrough so he can understand how to look at a set of plans and also look at our specifications book and understand how those two relate so that he can now bring that into the classroom. We offer those courses to any teachers at the ADC for free to ensure they can stay on top of industry practices. And I'll talk about actual summer externships in a minute because this is a hot topic for us right now at the ADC. And I've already mentioned supplies, materials, and technology. Technology is one of those spaces that we're trying to figure out how to help the academy too, just because technology's changed so quickly. And schools, to make investments in programs like Revit or CAD can be really challenging. And so we're looking at how we can better support the academy in ensuring students can use those programs. Any other questions about that?
And so if there were an update, let's say in a CAD system that needed to happen, how would you partner with the school to partner, purchase, or how to-
Right, yeah. So we haven't figured that out quite yet. If we were to talk about that fundraising again, that's what we're looking at. So annually, our members probably bring to the academy around $12,000 a year. However, the scholarships that we provide are probably closer to $2,000 to $4,000 annually. So we've built up a pretty significant purse when it comes to the balance in our funds for the ADC. So now we're looking at, all right, if we're giving out a smaller amount of scholarships, what else can we do with this money? So that is one thing we're looking at, especially as Innovation Central moves toward a bond project. Could we somehow support bringing in that technology through matching funds? Now, all of this, we don't know the structure of exactly how we can move that money around. That just might be a no, but those are some of the questions we're asking as to how we can help. Or could design firms and construction firms who have licenses to these software programs somehow bring the ADC under the umbrella of their license. Again, we don't have the answers to that yet, but we're looking at how we can do that. Okay, so what have we learned? Without a goal, we accomplish little. That seems really obvious, but let me help you understand that. So throughout the 6 years that I've been on the ADC, we've tried a lot of different structures for how to do work. One structure that we tried was breaking up into subcommittees. Those subcommittees were around industry connections, academy promotion and academy recruitment, and then also fundraising and events. And the fundraising event committee was always strong because there was a date that you had an event, and so you had to meet that goal. So you had to come up with a concept, you had to invite people to attend, you had to get them to register and pay, and then you had to execute the event. And so that committee has historically been very successful. But as you talk about academy recruitment, there was never a very clearly defined goal. It was ongoing work without a specific date that we were working toward. And so the committee dissolved, and we just weren't effective in that regard. And so I have found that when our advisory council has one goal for the year, this year for us it's been that curriculum walkthrough, we are far more effective than we try to accomplish all these little things without a set goal that we're working at together. So we did away with the subcommittees. We're back to just one advisory council meeting monthly toward one goal during the year to be effective. You need strong school leadership support and a dedicated lead teacher. I cannot compliment enough the individuals who work in the Academy for Design and Construction. They all care about the industry, and they all care how to make it come alive and relevant for the students. And so the program can really rock when you've got teachers who understand the industry and are bringing it into the classroom. And having that strong administrative support helps so much on the recruitment side. There's no better recruiter than Mr. Frost. He is on the phones and in the schools trying to get students to come to Innovation Central and also the academies. And then the student leadership team is something new for us. So last year, I worked with Mr. Jellens on identifying student voices for us. We made a lot of assumptions as to what students in the academy were interested in regards to construction and design. And one way that we specifically support this is through the Center of Innovation meetings. So once a month on a Monday, each academy within the school meets for a short time in a Center of Innovation meeting, and they typically bring in a speaker from the industry to talk about their career or, what they do. And I can't say we had a lot of engagement as I was identifying who should go to the school and speak until we decided that we should ask the students, which seems pretty obvious, but we didn't do that for a long time. Suddenly, we had far more engagement because the students know what they want. And so I never thought, for example, to invite the Rapid to come speak about urban planning and transit design. But they were so curious about it. And it was one of the best meetings we had as that was described for them. The student leadership team, so they help identify speakers and things that they're interested in. That student leadership team now, in advance of a speaker coming into the school, goes on site to tour their facility. So they went to the Rapid to tour the inner workings of the Rapid. They pre-interview the speaker, and then they help lead that Center of Innovation meeting instead of just me, an adult from outside of the school, coming in and telling the students all about how great construction is. So bringing the students alongside us has really helped us energize and excite other students in the program. And Mr. Jellens leads that student leadership team.
Is that different than like a club, like construction club or something like that?
Yeah, I think that it is. So early on, I guess last year, they really were selected by Mr. Jellens and invited to participate. But now the students bring in other students to fill that leadership team. So it's primarily juniors and seniors. And so as the seniors graduate, they have to backfill every year that student leadership team. They're not really doing projects specifically. They're really there to inform the advisory council on what they want and what they're interested in, rather than, I don't know, I kind of think of a club as maybe after school or a larger group. This is only 5 students that lead the work, so it's a little different, I think. Yep. Okay. So our goals and our dreams for the program. One of the things we want to work on is industry-aligned dual enrollment tracks. So Innovation Central is just a stone's throw from GRCC. And at GRCC, they offer all kinds of entry-level courses in design and construction. And so it's really my own personal philosophy that all students in the ADC should understand which college courses align with that career track that they can take while they're in high school. That, of course, offsets that expense for them, gets them ahead, and also can continue to show them the relevance of how academics tie into the career-focused academy they're in. Similarly, outside of higher ed, we're looking at how to develop a pre-apprenticeship track with a trade. So the electrical trade is the best example of this. In the state of Michigan, electricians must be licensed, and so they have to do that through a 4-year apprenticeship. Apprenticeship means that you work during the day and that you take one class at night for 4 years. And so we're looking at how could we follow that dual enrollment model and get the first year of an apprenticeship under the belt of a future electrician. And so we have industry partners who are very interested in this work and bringing students on site into their company to have them learn or make it through that level 1 of their first year of their apprenticeship. There are lots of hurdles to overcome in this particular goal, but we're working toward that. Class size is an example of a hurdle to overcome. So from the school side, we at GRPS are very interested in having an entire class move because you have to have an instructor go with them, right? So you want 25 to 30 students. From an employer side, they are not prepared to have 30 high school students on site with them. And so we're working through how we can perhaps pilot this and figure out how to make this work, because we could grow, I think, to that size, but we'll need to pilot on a smaller level to make sure we figure out how to do this well. We're looking for additional work-based learning programs, in particular in design and architecture. Because I'm in construction, I know a lot more about that side of things, but how can we get students into design and architecture firms to do things like this pre-apprenticeship work? And then student success tracking. So it's so hard to know after our students graduate, are they choosing architecture, design, and construction or not? And this is a problem across career-focused academies, just across graduating high school students. How do we track that success, especially if they don't move to higher ed, where it's easier to partner on that tracking? So those are the kinds of things that we're focused on right now. So I included a tool that we use at ABC to talk about careers in our industry. And I included this not to walk you through what a career tree is, but rather to talk about the importance of cross-curricular program flexibility. So as you look at some of the careers that are in construction, things like electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, and civil engineer specifically, if you're in the Academy for Modern Engineering, there is curriculum that aligns with what's happening in construction. If you think about the career of safety manager, but you're in the career of health sciences, a safety manager usually has a degree in occupational safe and health. And so somebody from the health academy might be interested in construction, and there's a career that actually aligns, a career track in health that aligns in construction. And so academies don't have to be siloed in the work. We can also show how they can go across academies and align with career paths in different industries. So there's spider webs of careers, and this is just a graphic to help understand that. One last stat. So we don't get discouraged. The average for individuals who are in a CTE program that go into that career path is 30% or less. And so these career-specific tracks are wonderful ways to expose students to opportunities in a particular industry. But know that we all probably have had careers that are very windy and go all over the place. So what career-focused academies are great at is making curriculum relevant and showing how you use it when you emerge from the educational environment. So let's not be discouraged if 100% of our students don't choose construction after they participate in a habitat build. But if some do, we're going to be really happy as an industry. Okay, that's everything I know, at least for today, around career-focused academies. Do you have any other questions or discussion for me around this?
Just the speaker at the Grand Rapids Business Journal luncheon for the
50 most influential
50
women.
most influential.
Yes.
Anyway, she had this slide, and I would quote it, but it's on my phone, so which is
We lost Christian going back.
That's okay. But anyway, it was a quote, I believe, from the CEO of Facebook, but she talked about how careers are not a ladder, but a jungle gym. I think
yes.
that fits really well with that, and we have to prepare our students for that. So I don't know. I know that for the committee and anybody watching is that when we discussed this, we really wanted this to be the beginning of our conversations on the advisory councils and not the total time. So this isn't a report as if we're just like, this is the way it's done and move on, but that actually we try to think about it. My sense of, and we can open it up to questions, but my sense of, first of all, I get this sense that the Academy of Design and Construction Advisory Council is particularly membered. So anyway, that there's a pretty good, strong focus on that, and you gave great examples of input, the way industry, higher ed can teach the teacher how to do things differently. So it's been kind of three things that this is what was really significant in my mind and reflects probably my own biases, but three things that it does. It helps the teachers be better at teaching, you know, in different ways, professional development, advising, curriculum walkthroughs, et cetera. And now I'm going to forget the second one, but the most significant one that I thought was really the experiences that students got as access. You talked about internships or pre-apprenticeship or alignment. So what we really, I think, if this is what we're doing, then what is the role of the board to strengthen this work and to make sure that it happens? The advisory councils have to contribute to this work, and otherwise it doesn't work well. But the advisory councils are still based on individuals that are volunteering their time or industries that are volunteering their staff to leave their workplace to do this work. And so, you know, how does the board make sure this happens across the board, and how do we kind of strengthen all of the academies, et cetera? You know, how do we get a chance to listen to, like, even your final goals, you know, industry-aligned dual enrollment opportunities at nearby universities, and these pre-apprenticeship programs sound like an amazing scenario, but there are hurdles that are in place, and how does the board and administration? So I don't know if would you and Jonathan like to just come up and just have some conversations about kind of hurdles? I don't want to. I don't want this to be a session of where we're saying do what Jen says, and but I do want to say is that, you know, what are the next steps to decide how can we strengthen it, because we basically have, I mean, if I did the math, I mean, we're going to at least half of our, I don't know, maybe my math is off, but close to half of our high school students are going to be in these academies, and it's the way we're doing education, and if we're committed to it, then we have to make sure that a key portion of it is well arranged.
So a couple of suggestions before we go down that way. One thing I think we can do is always be looking at those applications for